So there was a story of two brothers one day playing hide and seek. The older brother volunteered to be it and look for his sneaky younger brother. You see, the reason why I call this younger brother sneaky was because he always was looking for an opportunity to get on his older brother's nerves. Well, as they were playing hide and seek, the older brother heard a small laugh come from his closet, cracked open the door, and found his brother was there. And one would think the game would stop there, but not for the oldest. He was wiser and figured out how to return the favor of all the times his younger brother got on his nerves. He quickly put his foot in front of the door and said, "You're going to be locked in here all day." And as his younger brother tried pushing on the door, he couldn't muster up enough strength to open it. The oldest tried to find something to put in front of the door, but nothing was close. So he said again, "I've locked you in here, and you're going to have to figure another way out." So the older brother wisely removes his foot from the door, and the younger brother forgets to try the door again. He now thinks he's locked in the closet without any way out. And all the younger brother had to do is try one more time to open up the door, and he would be free, but instead he stayed trapped in the closet. You ever been there? Not being locked in the closet, of course, but ever been tricked into thinking something is true, only to realize that was said or done is made up, maybe even false? You know, on a personal note, this can happen to me when I haven't clearly identified what is false and continue to live in that lie as if it were true. You see, truth is, you and I have been lied to more often than I'd like to say. And most of those lies aren't from another person or a situation that you think will get better from an enemy whose main goal is to confuse you. You see, what we learned from Pastor Micah in week 2 of our War and Peace series is that knowledge of the enemy determines the strategy. And we know the authority by Christ to demolish any stronghold that comes against us. And this is important for the believer to know this. We also need to know that the enemy is waging war against us. And he would like nothing more than to confuse you into believing that God isn't who he says that he is, and that he is and can't do what he says he can do. You see, in 1 Corinthians 14:33, it says this, "For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace." And whenever we're met with confusion, it's possible to believe that it's the enemy that is twisting the truth. So the question is this: how do we know when the enemy is lying? Here's the big idea for today's devotion. You cannot defeat what you do not define. The main passage for our series in 2 Corinthians 10:5 says, "We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ." Now, Pastor Micah broke down the meaning of this passage, and I want to encourage you to go watch it if you haven't yet. One word I want to pull out from this passage is the word captive. Now, captive means to take prisoner or to cage. In this case, Paul is talking about your thoughts and how important it is to confine them, especially when it seems out of alignment. So how do we do this? Well, it's simply this. You, and we're going to go on in the passage here, take a journal of all the thoughts you think about. When something that you aren't hearing doesn't quite make sense, write it down. Now ask yourself this: what is the lie in this? What does God and the Bible say about this? And if it's dealing with a person, like a coworker, spouse, or friend, before entering into this dialogue, always think the best of someone before painting a picture of who you allow your thoughts and perceptions and making them to be. If it's dealing with a personal matter, address it with humility and ask God to reveal himself to you through it. And how can I replace the lie with the truth? A couple of Bible verses I hold close to my thoughts are this. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone, a new life has begun. Romans 12:2 says, "Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you to a new person by changing the way you think. then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is perfect, good, and pleasing. And one more says in John 10:10, the thief's purpose is to steal and kill and destroy. And God says, my purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. So imagine if we were to specifically identify the lie that we've been living in, replace it with truth, and walk in that truth daily. I believe we would have an abundant life anchored by the promises and words of God. Let's defeat the enemy today by defining the lies, replacing them with truth, and walking in the abundant life that is filled with the promises of God. Have a great week.